is easy to do.
Lining up is easy to do.
When you take care of only you.
When you take care of only you.
Hi everybody, good morning. I've already walked this morning and done some other things and decided to read you again. And I'm going to continue in our book about who is Jane Goodall. And last time we had read, Jane had finally got to move to Africa. She was working for a man named Louis Leakey. Wild chimps are only found in Africa, nowhere else in the world. One study had been done on wild chimps. However, it had lasted for less than 3 months. Leakey thought that much more time was needed to learn anything important about the chimps. But Jane had no experience. This was her first time in Africa. Yet he believed Jane Goodall was the right person for the job, and Jane did too. In July 1960, she moved to the GrammyB's Stream Game Reserve in what is now the country of Tanzania. First, she met the 2 African scouts who protected the area. Then Jane set off to take a quick look around. Her life's work was about to begin. What was it like to live at GrammyB's Stream in 1960? Steel gray mountains rose up from the eastern shore of Lake Tanganyika. In the valleys between the slopes were forest. It was completely wild. There were no tourists, no safari groups with cameras, and no fancy lodges to stay in. Jane lived near the lake in a little clearing by a small stream. And this is a map of where she would be going. There's a dark spot there. So really a different lifestyle. She was cut off from the rest of the world. Even the town of Kigoma was an hour boat ride away. Who besides Jane lived at the campsite? In addition to a cook named Dominic, there was one very important person, Jane's mother, Vinay. Vinay stayed with Jane for the first 4 months at Gambia. Mother and daughter lived in the same old army tent together. It had 2 cots and a separate area for washing up. Mosquito netting covered the front of the tent. Their toilet was outside. It was a deep hole surrounded by a fence. Vinay was a middle-aged woman. Living like this was hard for Jane. It had to be twice as hard for Vinay. Yet officials in Africa had refused to let Jane go off alone to Gambia. They were worried about the safety of a young woman living alone. There was no way Vinay was going to let Jane pass up this chance to live with the chimps. Already past 50, Vinay packed up for Africa. It is easy to see where Jane's bravery came from. Can you see that picture of she and her mother all set up in a tent there, ready to live together? They were spent 4 months together. Having Vinay share those first months meant so much to Jane. It was better than having a best friend along. In the evening when she returned to camp, Vinay was there. They'd have dinner and chat. Vinay kept Jane company while she wrote up her notes from that day. At first she wrote by hand on lined paper. Later she got a portable typewriter. What did Vinay do all day while Jane was out exploring? Vinay set up a little clinic. She provided basic health care to the local families. She handed out aspirin and clean cuts. And sometimes she helped deliver babies. So you can see a picture of her mom helping the people who lived in that area. That was really a great thing that she did. About once every 2 weeks, Jane and Vinay went by boat into Kigoma. In town, they picked up mail and food and supplies to last until the next trip. They'd stock up on eggs, baked beans, and sausages. At the fruit and vegetable market, they brought bananas and green and yellow oranges and passion fruit. 2 African scouts lived in huts not far from Jane's camp. One always made the trip into Kigoma with Jane and Vinay. It was not considered proper for 2 white women to travel alone. The main job of the scouts was to help Jane find her way through the forest. These forests were home to the chimpanzees. Jane, however, did not like having a scout along. Why? Because 2 people made more noise than 1 person alone in the forest, and noises scared away the chimps. Also, the scouts didn't like to start off as early as Jane. She was always up before dawn, and often the scouts wanted to head back to camp way before Jane did. So after a while, the scouts let Jane explore by herself. And here's a picture of her at first with one of her scouts, and then they let her go off by herself where it would be quiet and she could observe all the chimpanzees. Now she was free to go at her own pace. Sometimes she just sat on the ground. Sometimes she perched in the trees. She could stay overnight if she wanted. Plus, being alone made it easier to remain unseen by the chimps. Because of how far the chimps were, Jane carried binoculars with her. She took a tin box with her, too. It contained a sweater, a blanket, some food, coffee, and a mug. Jane always wore her hair in a ponytail, and she wore the same outfit every day, a tan shirt and tan shorts. Colorful clothes would make her stand out too much. She wanted to blend in with the background. So here's Jane off exploring on her own. She was very brave. Often she had to crawl through tangled vines. She got bitten by flies and scratched by grass, but nothing stopped her. Was Jane Goodall afraid of anything? Yes, she was scared of leopards. She knew the smell of leopards, and many times Jane caught their scent in the forest. One time she had to climb a tree to get away from a leopard. She was lucky. The leopard did not climb up after her. Instead, the leopard pooped on the rock where Jane had been sitting only a few minutes before. There's a picture of Jane up in the tree getting away from the leopard. Jane couldn't always see chimps, so how did she know where to look? She knew the sounds that chimps make. Hearing certain cries tipped her off that chimps were in the area. Jane would pick out a spot and just sit. She'd stay for hours, just quietly waiting and watching. Some days she didn't see any chimps. Even so, she was sure they were watching her. Other days she saw many. Sometimes a few large males would gather together. Sometimes she spotted a mother with her young. Sometimes she caught sight of bigger groups of males and females and young chimps. The trouble was that the chimps were always so far off, and they were never doing anything very interesting. Jane hoped to spy on chimps, playing together, or watch a mother caring for a baby chimp. Instead, all she saw were chimps searching for food. They'd climb up fig trees, pull off the fruit. However, the minute Jane tried to move closer to them, the chimps would all run away. How was she going to learn anything that mattered? And here's some more pictures of the chimps. So we'll continue with this book tomorrow. The next chapter is called The Chimps. Now today where I live, something important is happening. School actually starts in Lakewood and Long Beach. So I just wanted to read a couple of books. This one's called I Know an Old Teacher. I'm an old teacher. Yeah. Is it me? I don't know. But I was an old teacher. So I know an old teacher. I know an old teacher. Doesn't look like me, does it? I know an old teacher who swallowed a flea. It fell from her hair and plopped into her tea. Oh dear. A flea in your tea. Did you see that? See what? Miss Bidley swallowed a flea, a nasty flea. How can that be? Look at those great pictures. Oh, Miss Bindley. I know an old teacher who swallowed a spider. It crawled clean down the wall and then sat down beside her. She swallowed the spider to gobble the flea that fell from her hair and plopped into her tea. Look at her swallowing that spider. Oh dear, Miss Bindley. I can't believe it. Believe what? Miss Bindley swallowed a spider. She swallowed a spider right after the flea. How can that be? Oh dear. I know an old teacher who swallowed a fish. It swam down her throat with a swishity swish. She swallowed the fish to gobble the spider. She swallowed the spider to gobble the flea that fell from her hair and plopped into her tea. Look at her drinking the fish. Oh my goodness. I know you saw that. Saw what? She swallowed our fish. A fish, a spider, and a flea. How can that be? Ooh. that doesn't sound too good, does it? Oh dear. I know an old teacher who swallowed a rat. She gulped down that rat in 2 seconds flat. She swallowed the rat to gobble the fish. She swallowed the fish to gobble the spider. She swallowed the spider to gobble the flea that fell from her hair and plopped into her tea. Oh, look at that drawing of her. Oh my goodness, Miss Bindley. I can't look. Is it bad? Miss Bindley swallowed a rat, a fish, a spider, a flea. How can that be? Oh, Miss Bindley's ladder. I wonder what's going to happen next. Uh-oh, she's checking out Jake. You think she'll do it? Swallow a snake? I know an old teacher who swallowed a snake. It slid down quite smoothly like Mom's chocolate shake. She swallowed the snake to gobble the rat, and she swallowed the rat to gobble the fish. She swallowed the fish to gobble the spider. She swallowed the spider to gobble the flea that fell from her hair and plopped into her tea. Oh no, she swallowed a snake. Oh, there he goes. She did it. She swallowed Jake. Oh no, the teacher's turning green. A snake, a rat, and then a fish, a spider, and a flea. How can that be? I know an old teacher who swallowed a lizard. Got stuck in her gizzard, our sweet Lizzie lizard. She swallowed the lizard to gobble the snake. She swallowed the snake to gobble the rat. She swallowed the rat to gobble the fish, and she swallowed the fish to gobble the spider. She swallowed the spider to gobble the flea, oh, that fell from her hair and plopped into her tea. Oh, Miss Bindley, this is not good. She's got our Lizzie. She can't have Lizzie. Well, she's got her. She's going. Oh no, gone. Poor Lizzie. A lizard, a snake, a rat, and a fish, and a spider, and a flea. How can that be? Hey, she's staring at you. Staring at me? How can that be? Oh no. I know an old teacher who swallowed a child. Swallow a child? The old teacher smiled. I would never do that. So that was the end. She didn't swallow the child. Do you think she really swallowed all those other animals? I'm not going to tell. I'm not going to tell. You figure it out. And this is called Stay in Line. These are some things you have to learn at school to stay in line. Even though everyone's going to school this year, virtually or online, 12 girls and boys set off for the zoo. What fun. They're going on a field trip. That'd be a lot of fun. 6 pairs of children lined up 2 by 2. Everyone groaned when the teacher said, "Class, please stay in line. Do not run ahead." I'm having trouble turning a page. I'm sorry. But staying together turned out to be fun. There were so many ways that it could be done. 1 dozen children marched out the door. 3 rows of children marched out in 4s. Oh, they're being good. 12 boys and girls climbed onto the bus and sat 3 by 3 without any fuss. Oh, I'm proud of them. At the zoo, all the children skipped through the gate. There was 1 line of 4 and 1 line of 8. Oh, they're going to have a great time because they're good listeners. Then 12 happy children, each with a smile, skipped toward the hen house. They skipped single file. Wow, so many different ways to walk. The whole class wanted to look at the chicks, so they crowded around them in 2 rows of 6. At the llamas, the children could see for themselves that the best way to stand was in 1 row of 12. Later, the children got down on their knees to play with the bunnies in 2s and in 3s. Then all in a bunch, the class fed the pigs lunch, gave the ponies some oats, and petted the goats. Oh, they're having a great day, aren't they? By the time they had seen every inch of the zoo, there was only one thing the kids wanted to do. "You all must be tired," their teacher guessed. "Why don't you relax now and take a short rest?" So 12 tired children plopped down in a heap, and still all together they fell fast asleep. So they learned some different ways to line up, and you're going to learn a lot of different things this year and have a wonderful year at school. So I love you. I hope you had a great day today at school. Bye.
Amen.